Nerd Skool is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Now offering video visits so you can take control of your orthopedic care from the comfort of your home. Schedule online at orthocarolina.com. Ortho Carolina, you improve.
Hey, fellows. It's the first Snap Dragon of the season.
Nerd Skool.
Lord have mercy. Hey.
I am a super nerd.
Oh, my glasses are broken.
I am a super nerd.
My pocket is infected.
I am a super nerd.
Excelsior.
Nerd?
The Nerd Skool Podcast.
Starring Andy.
My name is Andy, and I am a super
I'm a former entertainment journalist.
TBJ.
Hi, this is Tiffany. You may hear me be referred to as TBJ.
TBJ, y'all.
I am what I like to call a surprise nerd.
Art Star.
My name's Art Star.
AKA Dark Star.
He's the nerd Gotham City deserves.
And yours truly, call me Joe.
Okay, back to Iron Man. We left off with Whiplash escaping prison with the help of some shady guards. Do you remember that? Did we talk about that part yet, or we're about to?
I think we're about to.
No, we didn't get to the guards yet.
He escapes prison with those, the mashed potatoes
Yeah.
thing and the clay bomb or whatever. And they take him to Justin Hammer.
Yeah.
And Whiplash has a man bun and he wants his bird, is what I wrote.
I want my butter. Give me my butter.
my bird. My bird.
My bird.
And then and we talked about that. The bird is his whole creation, and the man bun I think is just I'm okay with a man bun because people have to put their hair up somewhere, but I think my issue more is the highlights are too it doesn't look like just a guy who's going gray. It looks like perfectly timed streaks. It looks like a fashion.
Maybe it is. He's got all those tattoos.
So you're saying he doesn't look like he was slumming it
that
before he came to
hairstyle.
America with his fresh,
He was trying to look pretty or something
too stylized. Yeah.
something. I don't know. He looked like a movie star. That's.
But he also looked like Mickey Rourke, who just looks like 800 miles of bad road. So he can do whatever he wants with his hair. He still looks like Mickey Rourke, and he looks like he's just got out of prison.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
He always does. Yeah.
That sums it up.
And he does here. And so, okay, and then Pepper and the girl from Ghost World are frantically answering calls about what happened to Tony.
The girl from Ghost World, also a comic.
Yeah. Oh, see, now I don't know. I didn't know that. That's the first time I remember seeing her.
Yeah.
And I remember the whole thing we thought was she looks exactly like a friend of ours that Andy and I went to high school and college with, my friend Muppet.
She looked like Muppet.
I thought she looked like Muppet, and then now I'm realizing, boy, I'm really sexually attracted to our friend Muppet. So the girl from Ghost World, they're Pepper, they're frantically answering calls about what happened to Tony. Don Cheadle shows up. By the way, Don Cheadle on IMDb is known for Crash, The Guard, Hotel Rwanda, and Trader.
Yep.
Would that sound right to you guys?
Yeah. That's
I barely remember that Trader is a thing.
I prefer to think of him as the guy that worked for the Golden Girls on Golden Palace. And then Tony's doing research on Vanco. And we find out his dad was in the U.S. in the 60s and was convicted of espionage. We can only assume he had something to do with Howard Stark at this point. Little known fact, the shot of Whiplash being arrested was an actual shot of Mickey Rourke being arrested in real life. Did I say that already?
No.
But yeah, I found that on IMDb.
So that Tony's his shot when he was younger was not a mug shot, but like an image of him being arrested as well.
Yeah, they said that too. Yeah, I think both of them are. Yeah. So that's true because they've had Robert Downey Jr. was into all kinds.
Everything. Yes.
Yeah. So Rhodey then sees Tony struggle and burn out another heart light. Neil Diamond.
Burn out your hot lights.
Cut to Hammer showing Vanco the knockoff Iron Man suits. Vanco puts on a pair of old woman's glasses and works on the computer. IMDb says that Rourke said the biggest struggle he had in his role is to pretend he knew how computers work because he doesn't know anything about computers.
I can see that.
Yeah. There's nothing about Mickey Rourke that screams high tech.
I don't know if it was because I had already read that when I was watching it, but I felt like he looked like my dad when he used to get on CompuServe.
Wow, CompuServe.
My dad would. I remember he would like barely click on. Like, what do I click on? How do I click? Is this how I click? Is this clicking? And then all he would do email for is like send. He would like forward you those chain emails that used to come. Send this to 20 people, or you'll have bad luck. Or they'd be like horrible jokes, like horrible dick jokes and stuff like that.
Lord.
Yeah. So, he just looked like an old man that can't get it. So Tony has a brief flirty scene with Scarlett Johansson, who was known for her Lost in Translation, Avengers, and Under the Skin.
Yeah.
And then we get to Tony's party. Drunk girl. This is the thing I remember Iron Man 2 the most about. I think is this whole party where this is what I would be doing if I was Iron Man. Like drunk girls throwing bottles of watermelon for him to shoot. Side note: do you think the casting call for this was drunk party girls who like seeing things smashed?
It was probably just drunk party girls.
Just drunk party girls. Like they're just woo and throwing things in the air. And they love every time he blows something up. They love it.
I mean, they're in a mansion with a rich man being destructive.
That was the direction.
You're fine.
It's like, all right, anything he does, you love it. Yell about it.
Yeah.
And he's so drunk and he's partying or whatever. And then Don Cheadle says, "Get out." And that was a cool, badass Don Cheadle moment again.
Yeah. This whole sequence, when he's just hammered, is basically as close as they're going to get to dealing with Tony Stark as an alcoholic.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which was basically his major calling card, his major trait before these movies started. That sort of kind of recast him as this eccentric weirdo who's a super genius, hilarious dude. Before that, the main thing, Iron Man, yeah, he's drunk. He's a drunk guy. I mean, not that it was like one storyline, but it was a big deal that they dealt with alcoholism at all. And so
in the 60s, like back in the 60s, they
no,
did
this
that?
was, I think this was in the 80s. They did
Yeah,
that.
it was the 80s.
And so that kind of became the staple joke about Iron Man is, he's an alcoholic, because it was kind of one of the only noticeable character traits the character really had before Robert Downey Jr. just said, all right, basically he's going to be me except super rich and super genius. And that kind of is what Iron Man needed to catch on, was that.
Mm-hmm.
Because before that, he was more like Howard Stark than what Robert Downey Jr. made him, as far as I know. And like the we'll talk about Civil War later. But,
yeah, I was going to say, I should have known it was 80s, because in the 60s, we didn't talk about alcoholism. Everyone was just an alcoholic, it seems like.
We were out here free loving, drugging, drinking, 60s.
Yeah,
By we, not me. I wasn't alive yet, but, collective.
I think it was kind of like a way to sort of, like, he was kind of like this captain of industry, a sort of James Bond-ish kind of suave ladies' man hero dude. So I think they said, all right, what if he takes this part of it too far? What if James Bond was...
Yeah, and it makes it more real. Like you relate to him more. He's got a flaw, he's got a thing, and everybody knows somebody's an alcoholic or has. It's a serious issue that everyday people deal with.
And I think it's great in this storyline because it's also at the point where we know he is self-destructing, right? So we know he knows he doesn't necessarily have much time. So what would a rich jerky dude do with all this money if he was on the decline? Listen, I'd party it up and drink. Yeah, I'd drink constantly. I would not, So I think it ties in, one, yes, this alludes to his alcoholism, but two, it really is a peek into and nobody around him, no one close to him knows he's self-destructing. Well, Brody knows, but not why. But they know something's up, but he knows and we know it's because, as Joe would say, his heart thingy is
his arc light. Arc-like, right? You know what you call it? Arc-like?
Yeah, it is. I was just making fun of Joe because he always calls it something else.
Yeah, but Don Cheadle knows, and he's got to kick his buddy's ass
Yeah.
back to Earth, and so he really cares about him, and that's a cool thing about it. And then plus we get a cool Iron Man versus Iron Man battle. So that's what it's into. It's Iron Man versus Iron Man battle to Queen, Rob bass, and kick-ass DJ music to kick my buddy's ass too. Is what he says. Could you play some kick-ass DJ music to kick my buddy's ass too, like that? And then the guy starts mixing it, and it's like, and then we get the War Machine reference. He says, "You want to be the War Machine?"
Yep, that gives him his name.
And say that was my question. Do they ever call him War Machine?
Yeah, later. Later at one point, I think it's during Civil War, something like that.
I believe it's Civil War.
Or when he comes flying out and goes, "All right, War Machine," and then he gets in a fight. Or is it? It might be Ultron, Age of Ultron. I think when he calls himself War Machine.
Right. There's not a moment where he's just walking around and everyone's acknowledged. And I think that's something we saw in more than one of MCU, right? They don't always call them who, like we keep saying Whiplash, but there's no point in the movie where we know Whiplash, it is right, because of comics, but there's no point in the movie that he's referred to as Whiplash.
Right. Yeah, and they try to work the code names into the dialogue. Like Iron Man 1, Jeff Bridges was talking about, "We're Ironmongers, Tony," and that's his supervillain name is Ironmonger, is the character he's playing.
Mm-hmm. And this is all of them slowly feeding the nerds, just like giving the nerds, breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs, like, it's like that episode of Family Guy with James Wood, like, "Ooh, piece of candy, ooh, piece of candy." So, like, like, just slowly but surely giving a breadcrumb.
Yeah, like I think like at one point in the Hulk, the Sam Stearns dude was talking to Tim Roth, going, "I can help you do this, but it might turn you into some kind of abomination." Which is so
exactly
that's the head fake they do without having to actually say, "Oh, my code name is this."
Yeah,
which I think makes it more real because, like, that's in real life. That's what they would do. Like, they wouldn't just name something Aquaman and Superman or whatever. Like, it would be this hero would be known as the whatever.
Right. It's you don't name yourself a nickname.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's call yourself that, but that's what people refer to him to.
Right. Like in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, J. Jonah Jameson is the guy making up all the nicknames for these people because it sells papers.
And he's the paper guy. Yeah, he's the journalist guy. Okay, so we left off with the War Machine.
Yeah, this is the first time he gets into the armor. So this is following up on Terrence Howard's "Next Time, Baby, Next Time." It's like, except it's not you, but this is the time.
This is the time, and then so Rhodey flies away, and then
hold on. Now, hold on. See, now this is where my issue came up with Don Cheadle. So, like. Me just watching this over and over and over and over again, I never noticed this. Now, I can see him going down, getting a suit. When they was fighting, when he first started fighting, the fighting was kind of awkward. But, he's a pilot, so he gets used to the suit. So he's like, okay, he comes back, boom, boom. Also, Tony's drunk. He's not at his best. What got me as a nerd, as a nerd who was sitting there scrutinizing this thing, is when after the fact, he flew off. And in the way he flew was like he had flown this piece of metal before. And I'm like, wait, this is his first time in this suit.
Yeah. It seems like Gary knows how to use this suit. Is this not his first time? That was my question to you guys.
I'm like I said, I can see, like I said, I can see the fight part because it's like the Tin Man, after being oiled for so long, he got to get his bearings. But the fact that the way he flew off, sure, he's a pilot, but this is not an aircraft. This is
also, hold on.
Go for it. This is good. This is gonna be good. But it's just
one. But then you're totally missing out on the fact that the technology in the suit, right? When he's in the suit, when either one of them is in the suit is a smart suit, for lack of better words.
True, but the suit knew to take him back to the base. the base that it never came from.
We don't know the inner dialogue he had inside the
But see,
helmet
that's what
when he
I'm
had the
saying.
suit on
But
before he left. It's called movie
certain
magic.
Certain things I can give them, but that's one of those things where it's like, even the way he landed awkward. It was like the greatest American hero. You know what I'm saying? Greatest American hero. It was like that kind of scene. But it's like here he was. The way he flew off was like he was a pro. It was like he's done this many a times in this suit. Again, I'll give it to him because he's a pilot. But in that one
he's
moment,
watched Tony also take off a million times.
Right. But in that moment, it just seemed like, let's say if I was nerd illiterate, if I'm sitting in a movie theater and I'm supposed to be critiquing this movie, I'm saying to myself, hey, how did he know to fly like that? And how did he, the way he flew was just like, wow, this guy's done this before. But he hasn't.
Listen, I think we can agree that you were looking for a point to nitpick Don Cheadle.
Not necessarily.
I think we can agree.
Like in the moment as I was just nitpicking it, I'm okay with playing devil's advocate. On the flip side, it could also be a way of saying that I'm doing air quotes. They superhumanized him by saying like, okay, he's a fighter pilot. Of course he can fly this like it's a piece of butter being melted by a hot knife. Because he's a fighter pilot. It's like a superhero power. I'll give him that.
All right.
But just watching
strained metaphor aside, fly it like like butter.
Like butter. Being melted
on a piece of toast.
I was watching something stupid the other day, and the dude was using really. It might have been Teen Titans Go. They were doing something with iron, and it was totally crazy. But anyway,
so I agree with you, Arthur, because I said the same thing. I was like, and I was going to actually ask you guys: does this mean he's flown it before because he had no issues? But on Tiffany's side, I don't think that's Don Cheadle's fault. It was just the way they did it. And I'd imagine my guess would be that they probably had a little bit more extra footage there of him like trying to figure out or stumbling, and maybe they cut it.
Right.
All right, that could be one thing because Iron Man 2 is probably a bit longer than it needs to be, or they probably had to cut it down. But here's the thing: a little bit of comic lore that we could exercise here. Marvel used to do a thing way back in the day called the No Prize, where because fans would write in and say and ask questions like thinking, artists or writers made a mistake here because you said he did this and then, but in this other issue he did the opposite or something like that. And it became a game where they would challenge the readers to say, if you notice a mistake, instead of writing in to tell us we made a mistake, write in to tell us why it was not a mistake. Make up an explanation as to why this wasn't really a mistake. Come up with reasons why it's not a mistake. So, and they'll send you, and you'll win a prize if you do that. You'll win a no prize, which is basically no prize. But you would get like a postcard saying you've won a no prize. And the joke was that you're not actually getting a prize, but it was a thing that fans really loved and really loved to do. Because especially that's a great way to turn a nerd criticism on itself. To spin it in a positive way, because nerds like pointing out things that are inconsistencies or whatever.
Yeah, Art.
That was genius. Like this,
I'm a nerd, and I don't care who knows.
I don't know if this was a Stan Lee invention or something, but it's been back in the day. It was a great way to sort of spin it positive and make the nerds do their own work.
That's genius. I've never heard of that or ever known that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so I'm going to take home the no prize for just saying, number one, he's watched Tony Stark's, and number two, the suit is intelligent.
Just to be clear,
A, he's watched Tony Stark. B, he's probably had conversations with Tony Stark all the time. Like, if you find out your friend has flying armor and you're a pilot, what's the first thing you're asking about? How the fuck does that thing fly? How does that work?
And I like going with Tiffany's thing is, since Tony has made more suits and he's improved them each time, maybe he put in a mechanism that, hey, when I'm first doing this and I'm messed up, he knows he's dying. Maybe he's trying to prepare a thing for Rhodey to take over eventually. Maybe he's like, hey, come up with guidance Like when I say land, you land. When I say go to this base, you take over from here and there. You know, maybe he already installed all that.
Yeah, like there's just kind of an implication at the end when he loses that fight and he's sort of watching him fly off that he kind of expected something like that to happen. And
but then also,
especially since I think Rhodey's been bugging him to do that, to work with the government. He's like, you know what, I expected this, and if I'm dying, I trust him with it.
But he's also Tony, so he also has other plans, i.e., what he did in Homecoming, Spider-Man: Homecoming, where Spider-Man thought he had came to see him, but it was just a drone. Not even Iron Man 3. Yeah. Iron Man 3, he had, or spoiler, in Iron Man 3, he has Iron Man, quote unquote, drone suits, which, again, I don't know, I'm going to leave that for 3, but I think it's kind of a callback to this one. But, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that and hopefully call back to this one. But anyway, he flies into the Air Force Base that we talked about, and then we cut to the Beastie Boys, and which is great, with the little Beastie Boys song, and Tony's sitting in a giant donut, and this is when Sammy J says, "I'm going to have to ask you to exit the donut."
That's an actual donut shop in LA, that giant Randy's Donuts thing. I used to live near that place.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Have you been in that place?
I've been by it. I think like every time I tried to go there, it was closed for some reason. But it's a really small shop. It's not even really a full diner. It's just a really small donut shop. So the diner has nothing to do with the big donut. They just wanted the prop.
In real life, yeah. So then in real life, we go to this diner. It's a diner scene where we meet Agent Romanoff in her super tight leather suit. He's like, "What are you wearing?" And then this is my favorite part of it. Nick Fury starts yelling at him, and this makes me feel like Tiffany's going to be mad, but Nick Fury could definitely be Jules Winfield.
No, listen.
Because they're in that diner, and he's like,
how many episodes in are we that I keep telling you to let go of this thing you want? And I'm saying it with love, mostly. Let it go.
Mostly. But if it works, it works. I'm like,
It doesn't. It doesn't.
I really felt like it was somewhat intentional that they had him yelling at him in a diner, like in Pulp Fiction. Like it seems like when you watch that, and he raises his voice just like, "Say what again, motherfucker?" Like I just want him to say that. Like so, like he's almost. And I want to see John Travolta walk out of the bathroom. Like
this is one of those things. Like, it's amazing that Sam Jackson is so associated with the word motherfucker.
Well, he does it in
yes.
what is this? Infinity Wars. And Infinity.
Yeah,
he's about to say it, but then he disintegrates.
But like this, it's like have you ever seen his commercials for like the Quicksilver credit card thing, where like in the tagline is "What's in your wallet," but when he says it, like the end, like Quicksilver, "What's in your wallet, motherfucker?" You can just hear "motherfucker" at the end of that because it's him, and I think that's it by intention. I'm sure that credit card company wanted to have the tagline be "What's in your wallet, motherfucker," and the only way to do that.
I'm amazed at how like timeless and young Samuel L. Jackson still is. Like he doesn't seem to age. And you remember when he first came out, he was old when his career
Morgan Freeman is like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, before like anything after Lean on Me, Morgan Freeman seemed like he's always been the same age. Like
he's always been an old man. Like even when we were kids, he was on Electric Company.
He's always been an old man.
But he looked younger then.
Good coconut oil and shea butter can do a body good. Also that melanin, throw in a little melanin, and the sun loves it. They don't look at Pharrell. Hello. Let's talk about someone looking the exact same. It's just in the DNA. Sam Jackson is going to look like Sam Jackson for a while.
Is amazing too. He's been in so many movies.
Yeah.
And he didn't start till he was 50 or something. I don't know. I could be exaggerating.
Well, he got over a major. No, he was older because he went through a major crack phase. Yeah, so it took a while.
He played that crackhead in that Spike Lee movie.
But before that, like he himself went through a real crack phase.
Actually did, yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
before he really came out and started to get his life together and really started to get into some movies because his wife, also an actor, was a bigger, I won't say bigger name. She's bigger on Broadway and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so he started later because he had some growing up and some addictions to get rid of. You know, unlike Robert Downey, he got rid of his addictions first and then hit the scene. Robert Downey just did it all on the scene.
I didn't know his wife was a do you know his wife's name?
You've seen her. If you Google her, is it Johnson or Jackson? I don't think they have the same last name. Hold on. She goes by Richardson in a lot of movies.
What's her name? Tanya or Tom?
LaTanya Richardson?
IMDb is under Richardson. LaTanya Richardson Jackson. But if you look at her face, like, oh, I've seen you. Plenty.
Let's see. Now I gotta know. Oh gosh, yeah. Where do I know her from? She's Samuel L. Jackson's. Oh yeah. Holy crap. They got married in 1980.
Yeah, they've been married forever. Like she was with him during his time.
Oh, she looks so familiar.
She's got one of those faces that you don't always know who she is, but you've seen her. Mm-hmm.
She's been in a lot of television.
Yeah.
A lot of David E. Kelly stuff, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
She's known for, as we talk about, U.S. Marshals, Fried Green Tomatoes, Lone Star, and The Fighting Temptations.
And Malcolm X she was in. Sleepers in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
When a Man Loves a Woman.
She's been around, man.
Yep. And she was on episodes of Law and Order, but I think everyone was.
I know.
There's something about when I see a couple like that's been together, like didn't get divorced. Like even like Danny DeVito and Rhea Perlman, who've been married forever, even they've gotten divorced. I guess.
I know, that's crazy.
Oh,
but no.
She was in the Luke Cage series.
Yep, she was. I'm telling you, she has been around.
So we'll talk about her when we get to the Luke Cage series.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get to that or not. We'll see. Anyway, I love Samuel L. Jackson. Like he's probably my favorite thing. Andy, did you meet him at the Soul Plane premiere? Oh no, that's Snakes on a. He's on Snakes on a Plane.
Snakes on a Plane.
He might have been in Soul Plane. Like a lot of people were in that, but
even walking by.
Yeah, I was at the Soul Plane premiere. I had no business being there, but I was there.
How did you get there?
At the time, I was still working in entertainment journalism, and I got invited to a premiere. They were throwing out a lot of invites, I think, and I actually got to go to the after party, which was rare. And that after party looked like it cost more than the entire movie.
I just want footage of this. I just uncover footage of Andy at the Soul Plane.
Andy called me drunk at work. I was at work, so it had to be during the day. It had to be like on a date.
It was. I think it was early evening. I think the screenings were often at like 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock or something, and then after that, and it was only like 90 minutes.
But I lived in Chicago, and so I was 2 hours later than you. So I can't figure out how that. If it was 5 o'clock your time, it would have been 7. Maybe I stayed till 7 that day, but I remember distinctly being in my cubicle. I worked at the American Bar Association, and Andy called me drunk off the court. He was like, "Hey, I'm at the Soul Plane premiere. I don't fit in. I don't belong here. I'm drunk." And Snoop Dogg's next to me or something like that. Like, Snoop Dogg's right over there. I don't fit in.
Oh, my gosh. Someone, I don't know why there's no video of this. I would have paid money.
It was just me kind of wandering around wide-eyed at everything. They had Roscoe's Chicken and Waffle stands on site. They had women dancing in cages. Snoop Dogg pulled up in a stretch Hummer. It was just, it was very surreal. And I was there.
It was a different world for you, Andy, a different world.
Yes. And I may or may not have been wearing a bandana that had an 8-ball on it.
So you were like Jamie Kennedy.
Oh my God.
Just to kind of feel more like someone who would go to that thing. But
God bless it.
I didn't know you were wearing an 8-ball bandana.
I might have tried that out for a bit. I feel like maybe I took it off and went, "This is too much." But I'm trying to remember. They may or may not have also been giving out. I think pimp cups were a thing at the time. So
They probably were. I mean, it was.
Did you get a pretty sweet swag bag?
I don't recall.
He was
may
too
have gotten-
intoxicated to remember.
I was very drunk, and it was fun to be there, but it was also, it's like dipping a toe into a world that's not yours. But you like the experience, and I liked going there.
So at this point, Nick Fury gets the lithium dioxide gets injected and fixes his next high-tech crossword puzzle that he's got going on immediately, and they hint that they can maybe help him find a cure.
Mm-hmm.
And then we jump to the Vanco scene with Hammer and the bird, and
This is
Morty said, drone better. And he's like, this isn't what I wanted you to make suits. And he's like, drone better. Yeah. So he's going to make a bunch of drones rather than.
Yeah. And it's great because freaking Sam Rockwell's again playing the world's biggest douche, and Mickey Rourke is like with 4 words is completely playing the guy and stringing him along because Justin Hammer knows he can't. All he wants to do is shit in Tony Stark's mouth, and he can't do it out of his own, so he's depending on this, and and he's like, just let Hammer talk. He'll talk himself in circles, and I'll say 4 words and send him off on a different tangent, and as long as he keeps paying me to do what my big revenge plan, I don't give a shit what he wants.
Exactly.
Hey man, drone better. You keep calling him man, drone better. Yeah, I like that.
He barely even knows his name.
He doesn't care. He's like, listen, you're funding my revenge. That's all that matters.
That's it. Exactly it. Yeah. So I like that whole playful thing. And then the Colonel orders Don Cheadle to get the Iron Man suit to Hammer. Sam and Jay explains Vanco and Howard worked together on something huge that makes a nuclear weapon look like a battery. But Vanco wanted to get rich off it, so he had him deported to Siberia. And he was a drunken mess ever since, which is how we got Vanco.
Right. Vanco, who doesn't know that part, he thinks his dad was just shut out of the process because the Starks were the greedy ones.
Yeah, so we hear so we get the other side of it. Nick Fury gives him the mission to step up like his dad wanted, then abruptly leaves, and Black Widow informs him all communication is cut off from the outside world. And then Coulson warns him he'll tase him and watch Super Nanny if he doesn't get to work. Which I love that. And, of course, Super Nanny, I don't even think it's a thing anymore, but kind of a fun callback to the early 2000s or whatever.
That good show where everybody's kids were out of control, and I kept thinking, why do you need a nanny? Just stop.
Oh, and that show I remember watching that. My wife and I would watch that nonstop. Jeez, this is so good. I don't know why.
It's because kids were wild.
Yeah, the kids were bad and the parents were terrible. So anyway, Hammer shows off weapons to Rhodey, and Rhodey wants it all. He says everything for the War Machine suit.
Yeah.
That reminds me of when he gets everything, and when Hammer's talking about that little missile that's the ex-wife. And then when it gets to the ex-wife, it does nothing.
But I think I read the reason that happened was because it's supposed to have been a long-range weapon. And the fact that they were so close when he shot it, they had no, I guess, real propulsion behind it or something. And it gets ping. Or if you're like one of, this is probably bad I should say this, but you could just look at it as like it's called the ex-wife. Maybe it's saying it supposedly, have this like really big bite, but it really was just a little whimper.
Listen, I was about to say, watch where you were going.
Yeah, either that or it's an ex-wife because it turned out to be very disappointing, just like the marriage or whatever. You can make it. I
didn't want to. I wasn't prepared to battle Tiffany just yet on that point.
Listen,
let me word this right.
It's whatever.
But yeah, I kind of like that, getting the chance to watch Justin Hammer be a salesman.
Fail repeatedly.
Yeah.
Yes. But be so determined. I think that's the crazy thing. And that's, we talked about it last time where you can just tell all he wants, right? All he wants is to be on par with Tony Stark's, and nothing he does can get there. And he just keeps getting it wrong over. And he's spending all this money to get it wrong, which is one, I need to know where all your resources come from. But he's just getting it wrong over and over again. But he cannot stop because he has to one up Tony Stark.
And that
maybe on some level, maybe it's twofold. Like, he wants to one up him, but you can tell he really idolizes him. It's like, forget, as boys growing up, we know that, let's say our friend has this awesome toy or has whatever. We have this thing in us where it's he got this toy, I got to get a better toy. Even though you still like his toy, you want to get a better toy than him, but you still want to play together with him. It's not like, I want to one up you, but I still want to play, toys with you. Let's build this awesome fort and let's see, put our figures there, but I got the better toy kind of thing. So it's in some ways, I feel like Justin Hammer, he wants to better him, but then he also wants to pretty much just play in the yard with him.
He wants to be
Tony, because Tony's a super dick. He's like, whatever, dude.
And I think Justin Hammer is like a cautionary tale. Like, what happens if the special balance between shitty personality traits and positive personality traits that Tony Stark has shifts out of whack too far into the douche?
Right.
Yes.
He could very well be what Tony Stark could be if he didn't have enough to back it up. If Tony Stark didn't just keep infuriating people with his talent, he would just infuriate people and he would not have any friends and everyone would hate him. But if he didn't have just enough of a moral compass, which he didn't have until the first movie, and,
much later,
and the talent to keep building these amazing things, he would just be Justin Hammer. He would be a giant douche that fails on the national stage.
Okay, we get to where Tony's revealing the film reels, and he discovers the message from his father that leads him to the original 1974 diorama of the Stark Expo. And he goes to his old office to get it, which is now occupied by Pepper, and tries to reconcile with her. And there's a lot of back and forth and funny arguing there. In reality, the diorama is a disguised diagram for the atomic structure of a new element that Howard couldn't produce in his time, but Tony may be able to with advanced technology. And then Stark performs a radical alteration of his home workshop and his he hand builds a small particle accelerator with the aid of his computer system, Jarvis. Stark synthesizes this new element, creating a new triangular chest arc reactor, not Heartlight.
You said it right.
That's because I'm using somebody else's thing. It cures his poisoning and is much more powerful than Stark's earlier versions. And just before Tony completes the particle acceleration, Coulson tells him that he's free to go and that S.H.I.E.L.D. has reassigned him to another case in New Mexico. And right away I asked myself, I was going to ask you guys before I watched the rest of the movie, I was like, what's New Mexico? Is that
that's Thor.
America, or is that that? Yeah, later we find out at the end of the movie at the post-credits.
And that's something Samuel Jackson mentioned in that scene too. It's like, I got bigger problems in the Southwest region to deal with than you. And there's no reason anyone knows what that is until.
So that's supposed to lead us to believe that this is happening at the same time that whole, what's her name, Sarah Beth Parker. No,
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman. Who's Sarah Beth Parker?
Hey.
I don't know.
Sarah Jessica Parker.
You got to get Natalie Portman's name right, dude. You got to.
Hey, I used to have a crush on her, so I don't know why I got that.
I still did.
I was about to say she still got it.
I gotta hand it to her for the raps she does on SNL.
Yeah.
Those are pretty badass. So we're led. So we should believe that this is the same time as that stuff's happening, right?
Right.
Let's say, is any of this from comics? Like this whole, like
building a new element kind of thing. I think.
Well, the new element, and then also the part of, this whole thing about his dad never, he didn't think he loved him, and then like the secret video of him like, oh no, I really do love you. It's always been you, kind of thing.
Maybe. Honestly, I can't say I know a whole lot about Iron Man, his whole history, because I haven't read a lot of it. Mostly what I've read of him has been in Avengers. So, like, I'm sure there's some nerds out there who will disagree about my summation that there wasn't a whole lot to him until Robert Downey Jr. But even a comics nerd, historian, writer like Mark Waid said that I think Iron Man needed Robert Downey Jr. to become a viable character.
Right. He wasn't pivotal to anything big when we thought of Marvel.
And just a reminder, I can't remember if I mentioned it. I'm sure I mentioned it during the first Iron Man, but Jarvis is based on the character Edwin Jarvis, who was the Avengers' butler, like an actual human being.
Really?
Yeah.
So Jarvis wasn't the name of the robot or the voice inside his body in the comics?
No. I don't think he even really gave his armor names like that until, like, this is like a way to have Jarvis, because for a long time the Avengers, their headquarters was Avengers Mansion in Manhattan, on Manhattan Island. It was like a big mansion they lived in, and they had like underground headquarters, training rooms, and secret shit. But at some point in the early 2000s, they just kind of destroyed that out of nowhere and sort of built an Avengers Tower, which is what you get at the.
Well, it is also, you realize. Also, the fact that there's the whole Avengers West Coast kind of thing that they had in the comics. So,
right, but like the Avengers Mansion had a butler, and it was Tony Stark's butler, Edwin Jarvis, was he was just very much an old bald dude, like that would take care of things. He's very Mr. Belvedere kind of guy. But then in the Agent Carter series. That they made, they sort of had Edwin Jarvis be a real dude that was his father's assistant, or his butler that also was secretly his assistant on more crazy spy things. And we see him in Endgame as well. You see that Edwin Jarvis, which is kind of neat. But it's just worth mentioning that that's a comics reference. As far as Tony's relationship with his father, I can't speak a whole lot about the Howard Stark thing, but if not exactly right, it's probably something similar.
Okay, we've taken too much time. We're gonna stop here, and we're gonna come back with the rest of Iron Man 2, the end, in a future episode. Thanks for listening, nerd peoples.
Nerds roll.
Excelsior.
Oh, my glasses are broken.
My pocket is protected.
Hey.
Rap about the president no more, but evidently they don't see we in the streets still poor. Still more incarceration of my kinsmen by the prisons, and people thinking this election to end it racism. Proud over pessimism, glad to see Obama, but don't expect me not to speak out when I still see problems.
The Nerd School Podcast.
Nerd School is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Now offering video visits, so you can take control of your orthopedic care from the comfort of your home. Schedule online at orthocarolina.com. Ortho Carolina, you improved.